So Raymond, this morning, in our conversation on SNIT, and very soon we'll be joined by Austin Gamey, Labour Respect, and Professor Mamudu Akudugu, who is President, University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, because on Friday when Organised Labour actually declared the strike, they wanted SNIT to stop the sale of its hotels, 60%. Then, by end of the day, first, Rock City, led by Brian Echampo, had indicated they were no longer interested in purchasing 60% shares of SNIT stake in these four hotels. And SNIT itself, in a letter issued by its board chairperson, Elizabeth Ohene, indicated that they had decided to even halt the wholesale of these hotels. That actually raised a lot of questions when it comes to decision making, when it comes to investment decision making of SNIT. Now, for those who actually, drew up this Pensions Act, which gave us a Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, what did they envisage that SNIT was going to become? Is it what SNIT is doing? Or maybe they may have been taken by surprise following the passage of that Pensions Act. And for UTAG, are they suggesting to us that they are never going to go back until the board of SNIT resigns?
Those are interesting developments currently happening. Now, the understanding is that take advantage of, because you see, I think there's been some intransigence on the side of the SNIT board too. This is not the first time Labour had come out. Remember, when they came out first, they asked them to put it on hold, and that you risk having Labour taking you on heavily. And they even told us that there's the possibility that there will be a full-blown strike action. 2 weeks later, they were invited to meet the Labour Minister. Labour Minister promised them that he had directed SNIT to put it on hold. Labour itself came to tell us that. Then subsequently, NPRA, because judging from Elizabeth, who chairs the board of SNIT's statement, it appeared she was still bent on continuing with it. Then Labour complained. Then NPRA wrote to them, halt, submit your documents. Then recently we were told by the same Labour Minister that they've been cleared to continue. Then the Labour unions felt deceived that the conversation they had is not what is being implemented. Then they had to take the drastic action. I do not recall. There's historic evidence that in the 40s, a similar thing happened. An entire full-blown strike of all the major Labour unions. I do not recall any such time. They are threatened. Any such action has been declared by all the groups like this today.
Okay, let's get onto the phone line because Professor Mamudu Akudugu, who is President, University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, has joined us now. Prof, good morning and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, my brother Wilson, and good morning to your panelists and
great,
listeners.
Prof. Before we continue into your call, earlier today, I'm sure you may have seen the finder that says that UTAG doesn't contribute to SNIT. We have tried to provide a bit of explanation on that, but since I have you, tell me, do you contribute to SNIT?
Yes, some of our members contribute to SNIT.
Okay.
And besides that, many of our members had contributed to SNIT before joining the universities. So we still have our stakes there.
So some of your members contribute to SNIT and others contribute to what specifically?
We contribute to what we call the Ghana Universities Superannuation Scheme.
Okay. Great. So let's continue now. And on Friday, you had all talked about, Organised Labour talked about a discontinuation of the sale. That has been granted. So why the new demand of the board being dissolved?
Well, for us as UTAC and as academics, we look beyond the symptoms or the effects to look at the root causes of problems or issues. And so we believe that, and this is an opinion expressed because we are part of Organised Labour, and Organised Labour has taken a decision that there should be a termination. But we, as indicated, are suggesting that just terminating a sale is not enough to address the underlying problem. And what is the underlying problem? Why did they want to sell the assets? What was the reason for selling the assets? We are told that the assets were non-performing. How does the termination solve the non-performance problem? So we need to go beyond the termination to look at the issue of non-performance and how to turn things around. How do we do that with people who have been in charge for 3 or so years, who think that the only best bet for us is to get rid of the assets? As the one who just finished talking, my brother who just finished talking, mentioned the number of times the organized labor has tried to engage and the assurances and what happened. And they remain intransigent and brought us to the brink. How can we have a meaningful conversation on the alternatives with this group of people again? It's not going to work. And so to make progress, we believe that it's better they step aside and allow a new group of people that can, engineer and be more open to conversations on other alternatives than just selling the assets.
Okay.
That is our opinion. Yeah.
Let me just get you clearly. Are you suggesting that because over the years these assets have become non-profitable and you have people so pretending those people should step aside because you don't believe they can do a good job going forward?
Exactly so.
But somebody would argue that these persons you talk about, so this is a board that was constituted somewhere in 2021. The non-performance of these hotels predates the constitution of the board. So why must they be the ones to step aside when it's a problem generally with the Golden Beach Hotels running these hotels, which is a subsidiary of SNIT, and not really their problem?
If we have to continue to think that way, then there will be no solution to any problem, and there will be no need for change of leadership. You are given leaders are meant to solve problems.
Okay.
I mean, that is the primary responsibility of leaders. As a leader, you are supposed to solve the problem because your subordinates can complain to you, but you have nobody to complain to. You have to solve the problem. So if these hotels have been non-performing over the years, so we should continue. No, we cannot continue that way.
Okay.
And so, if they fail to also perform, interestingly, if it was the politicians, those who go into elections, the people know how to get rid of them when they don't perform. But if somebody is appointed and the person is not performing, what do? The person should go.
Okay.
We cannot say that because those hotels have not been performing. And in fact, we now know on record that some of the hotels actually are making profits.
Okay. Let me bring in Austin Gamey, who's a labor expert. He was part of the committee, that gave us our new Pensions Act. Now, Mr. Gamey, thank you very much for joining us. Hello, Mr. Gamey.
I'm grateful.
Great. So let's look at, for you, who was part of that committee that gave us the Pensions Act. And today, if you look at the investment decisions of SNIT, in the designing of the new act, by way of giving us a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, was this what you anticipated SNIT was going to be like going forward?
Thank you. Certainly not. It's surprising that they've not been sensitive to the wish of the most vulnerable group of people, pensioners, who have come to the final stages of their life and may not be able to do much at that stage. And so we anticipate something extraordinary being done by SNIT to the joy and delight of the people who are contributors to the SNIT scheme. Unfortunately, they've not been able to respond positively to these demands as we envisaged when we were writing the pension scheme.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the MPRA, which is supposed to be the regulator, are pondering to the whims and caprices of the feelings of governments, and not because they want to demonstrate the skill that they have acquired over the years of learning. So it's a great disappointment. And you and I have had conversation on this subject matter for some time, and I was thinking that people were listening to you and I, and we're going to learn lessons, not to repeat these kind of things. Unfortunately, they've not learned anything. And whilst I was in Côte d'Ivoire, I just returned on Saturday, I was following everything. I've been talking with Raymond. He's been calling me. He was not getting it very well. I heard the minister, my colleague, a minister from Ministry of Employment went to Parliament and stated categorically just last week that the MPRA has approved and that they were going to go ahead with the sales. He's smart of this gross disrespect for not just those of us who are talking, but the pensioners who are vulnerable. And so these are maybe the things that we should all learn lessons from, not to repeat it again.
I mean, while we talk about lessons, let's get back to what you anticipated in putting together, that act. You said this is not what you anticipated. You expected something better. What did you expect when you put the act together?
Yeah, that's why the separation even came, because we anticipate that from the actuarial study we did during the time we were writing the pension scheme, that even at that stage, when the daily minimum wage was at its lowest level, from the study we did, anticipating that we will have people who really are leaders, who are managers, who will be sensitive to the investment, decisions to be made. That when we separate and create a tier 2, where SNIT will no longer pay lump sum, and the lump sum will be paid by the second tier, then the first year they will concentrate strictly on investment issues and related matters, and not thinking about any other thing again. Unfortunately, they have not responded positively to these concerns that we have at all. Again, just as a matter of fact, myself and Josephine Amoa, then in charge of insurance, national insurance, we were selected by the commission as members to go and take a look at SNIT operations and come and recommend the way we should go. And hence, with the women also from Makola coming and saying that they do not want to be part of the SNIT scheme and that we should create a new, thing for them. Hence the second tier. And so we were expecting that SNIT will live up to expectation as an institution, not as an umbrella part of government at all. They didn't respond.
Okay.
They did something different.
Let's look at SNIT responding as an institution and not an umbrella, part of government. What is SNIT doing that you say it has become an umbrella of government?
Well, SNIT is a trust. The money they are holding it in trust for the pensioners. And let me correct an erroneous impression that people might have. Maybe it's for lack of knowledge, people can perish. The point is this. When they deduct your employer at media, your company, if they deduct money from your pay and contributed their quota to it to be paid to SNIT to hold in trust for you, the money ceases to be your employer's money. It ceases to be government money. It ceases to be SNIT management money. It is your money that should have been given to you for you to decide where to put it. But because we have, as a nation, agreed that if you pool the money into one pool, insurance pool, will have volume and therefore enough money to invest, and therefore the return on the investment will equally be quite booming. That is the intent. And so therefore, if SNIT is supposed to be dedicated to serious, steady, and appreciation of adding value to whatever step they will take, both in management and investments, so that they send this clear-cut information to board of directors, who will then strategically examine it, validate the return on the investments before they invest, and to de-invest, and to reinvest, and so forth, and so on, and so on. Unfortunately, they have not, I repeat, responded to even a segment of what we are talking about now. And therefore, you cannot have confidence in them as it is now. I'm not surprised that UTAG and other people, of course myself, we are requesting that there will have to be some changes to be made at the top echelon of SNIT itself, and the board, of course, must be dismantled, not just dissolved, dismantled into pieces and no more to exist. That we have people who are committed and will respond positively to the plight of vulnerable people when they come of age and must have good pension.
Now that you've brought, the UTAC position in, I was going to go there, so good that you actually end on that bit. Why should the top management of SNIT, why the need for a shake-up there? Why the need for what you term as a dismantling of the board?
Very obvious. If you are given a responsibility and you fail to discharge that responsibility as expected by your employer, and the employer here is not government. I repeat, the employer here is not government. The owners of the money through the constitutional arrangement, the president has appointed, the board has appointed the top echelon, even deputies and so on and so on. That is fine. That's the present constitutional arrangement. But I think all that must change. And going forward, it might be people who have the commitment, the dexterity, and the skill to ensuring that the investment decisions, return on investment decisions, the strategic plan of pension and pension execution are the people who should be representing the various bodies there, and government should never be the one appointing a chairman of the board. When they select the people there should go and look among themselves and select a chairman for the board, who will then become their facilitator at the meetings, and not having that overbearing nature of the Ghanaian spirit of chairman, president, and so on and so on. It's an overbearing kind of attitude and spirit that we have used in this country all these years. And we have come of age. Just a 7 years retrogression is enough. We better move forward now. And the transition begins now. So that today, there's 4 months that is left for the government to go fine. Whichever party becomes in charge of the government architecture of this nation should take notice. And notice is served now. That nobody will tolerate this kind of thing, not only in SNIT, in every segment of our lives. They should not be making us look as if we are slaves in this country anymore. To not be tolerated.
Now, before I bring in Professor Akudugu, Mr. Gamey, I'm looking at the Board of Trustees of SNIT. 2 persons nominated by the President, one of whom is a woman, 2 representatives of the Ghana Employers Association, 4 representatives of organized labor, 1 representative of National Pensioners Association, 1 representative of the Ministry of Finance, not below the rank of a director, one representative from the security services who is not a member of the Ghana Armed Forces, the Director General of the Trust, and the company secretary of the trust. Organized labor has 4 representatives, 2 from the Ghana Employers Association, 1 from the National Pensioners Association. You're saying all these people should be dismantled, made to step aside?
The same group can renominate people to go and let's have a change. Let's have a change. There should be complete transition now, and something novel will have to take place. Some people who are coming there to ensure the prudency of the management of the monies that are lodged with them to be held in trust. This kind of people, it does not mean that somebody who is a general secretary should be sent there. It meant that organized labor, if I was sent as one of the commissioners writing the pension scheme on the back of Ghana National Association of Teachers. I was not a teacher, and I'm not a teacher as one of their members. But they nominated me for whatever reason. I think I've served done my duty for them. So they can send somebody. Let's say if you, Raymond, or my brother there, if you are the one that you are capable of assisting in the management of the monies that are entrusted into SNIT, then you are the one I'm referring to. A certain woman somewhere in Kungurugu who is qualified and capable of representing women there is the one I'm talking about. And so we need to dismantle, recompose, and even increase the quota of take government hands, long hand might be completely taken off. 2 people from government in totality is enough. The president should not have an overbearing kind of thing, so that they will be instructing people as to what to do with SNIT money. SNIT money is not Ghana government money. God forbid that it should be taken like that.
So in effect, you're calling for an amendment to the Act?
Of course, it has to be. It has to be, because we presume positively that we're going to have leaders who care about this. It appears we have been disappointed, and so in the future, maybe it's too late now, the next government should ensure that we amend the SNIT law and the MPRA law. MPRA, they are regulators. It is the same misbehavior Bank of Ghana is doing, is also churning out on all of us. If you are an institution regulating, don't be playing into the hands of government. It's not done in any civilized society. That's why we borrow money from people who are doing well. You can't do a thing like this in Finland. Even Senegal here, their pension scheme is not being mismanaged like this.
Talking about government moving its long hands, taking away its long hands, should that extend to the appointment of a Director General so that the President no longer appoints one?
Not just Director General, including deputies. Because it's a deputy that have been elevated there now. And who went on using this thing and showing us on TV that this is perfect, this is right, this is right. It's a big joke. I think we are children in this country. You know, it should never be, this is their first and the last. Never should it happen again. And you Ghanaians, you must learn your lessons. You have retrogressed 67 years now. You can't learn anything. What kind of shameful thing is this?
Please hold on. Let me bring in, Professor Akudugu, and I'll get back to you, Austin Gamey, as we wrap it all up. Prof, so until the board is dissolved, but if I could borrow the words of Austin Gamey, dismantled, and the top management removed, are you suggesting UTAG is not going to call off its strike?
Well, I think Uncle Mr. Austin Gamey, good morning, sir.
Good morning, my brother and my friend.
Yes, sir. So you have finished the matter, and I wish that I didn't have to say a word again to dilute what he has put. As we talk UTAC has not. We have taken the processes to declare a strike because UTAC, our constitution mandates that it is the members who declare strike and not executive. So they have to vote to decide whether they want to strike or not. Depending on the outcome of the meeting today with organized labor, if they decide that the opinion expressed by UTAC is not acceptable to them and therefore they are okay with the termination alone, we would consult our members. Whatever direction they give, we will proceed on that. We believe that we have the right to proceed if our members are so direct that we should call a strike because of this. So we'll await the outcome of today's meeting and then we'll consult our members and we'll take it from there.
Okay. Mr. Austin Gamey, finally, we've seen today that the call by organized labor, at least SNIT has terminated the sale. The company that won the bid also said they were no longer interested. Should they use this particular process to demand what you say should be done to SNIT? So not just saying, okay, once the sale has been terminated, we've called off the strike. But as UTAG is saying, they should demand that the board be dismantled before they call off their strike so that, the changes that you want to see at SNIT begin from here.
Certainly. I think that, let me congratulate organized labor. Somebody would say that they've been very slow, but it's better to hasten slowly sometimes. I appreciate what they have done, and we must congratulate our friend and brother, Honorable Sami Okujeto Ablakwa as well. And whosoever, I've heard my friend and brother and Ghanaian, Brian Achampon says he will take on Sami Okujeto. Nobody dare touch him. Nobody dare do him any harm. Whoever does that will do it at their own peril. They will never be forgiven. Hellfire will await for them. And so, as far as I'm concerned, organized labor must ensure that not just UTAG, but we should solidarize among as people who are beneficiaries and even young people who are coming up now. Whatever happened today will have effect on you tomorrow. 20 years is just five days ahead. So people who are very young should take notice and not to presume that it is their fathers and grandfathers who are demanding this. It's being done for and on their behalf. We should demand complete dismantling. We should ensure that only the right decisions are made and that we all do what is appropriate and not inappropriate. And we are here. If there is something, we will contribute and ensure that the right people are sent there. I don't need to be sent there. The right people should be sent there to manage the SNIT scheme for us and every other department of the Ghanaian life going forward. Organized labor, they should come under the directive principles of state policy. Article 3611 states, among other things, that working people should participate in the decision-making process, not just one-stop shop type of thing. It's a process. Every plan that government sends to parliament, they should religiously follow it and ensure that the economic management is not sent into disarray the way we have sent Ghana into the doldrums now. It should never happen again. We should awaken from our sleep.
But Mr. Gamey, listening to Brian Achampon saying he would take Okujeto on is about the fact that he would take him on what he believed was the peddling of horses, but not to harm him. So that's just by the way. But thank you very, very much, for joining us this morning. We're very grateful to you, Austin Gamey, and also to you, Professor Mamudu Akudugu, who's president of the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG. We're very grateful.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, so there you have it, Raymond. They're calling for not just a dismantling, into bits and pieces, but also an amendment of the Pensions Act to be able to address all of these concerns. Earlier you heard from Austin Gamey, Labour expert. He was part of the committee that put together the National Pensions Act, and he's told us this morning how disappointed he is in the decision-making, particularly the investment decision-making of SNIT. Now, he's not stopped there. He's actually called for the dismantling of the SNIT board. He believes that, first of all, SNIT should stop being an umbrella of government, more like an extension of government, because SNIT is actually there to keep funds from workers and invest those funds so that when they go on retirement, they can actually get something. It should not be seen as, a part or an extension of government. He's also commended Labour. He's talked about the fact that, sometimes it's good to hasten slowly, but also wants the top management of SNIT stepping aside so that others can take over. He doesn't think that the president should be appointing chairperson of the board of trustees. Raymond, so basically, Austin Gamey, reiterating some of the things we've been saying for some time now.
Yes, and they're important because it appears SNIT has come. See, if you take out this decision, first and foremost, you will not be hearing from Labour and the declaration of these strikes. You get the point?
Yeah.
So the reason why we almost have had a shutdown in this country is because of the institution SNIT. But for a trust, the reason is that you would represent, and of course, you play an important fiduciary role, which would necessarily mean that I am representing Winston's interest. I am just conduit for whatever Winston wants me to do. I hope you get the point.
Yeah.
So even if I develop ideas of my own as management or as board, and I bring it to you, Winston, I'm expecting Winston to approve it or be in general support of it, because SNIT's not like some of these companies that go for AGM and you expect everybody to vote for it and all of that. My expectation has also been, and I get where Austin Gamey is coming from. Usually, I think our governance is a bit the other way around. People are supposed to have their say through their representatives. Then it's easier for their will to be done. So they recruit their representatives. Because you cannot leave the studio here and we go and vote on every matter at SNIT, like the Greek city-state kind of polity style, where every matter we call everybody, you put up your hand or you bring your stone to determine that you're also voting on the matter. That's why you choose people to represent you.
Yeah.
So at all times, their most important job is to represent your interest. In fact, especially when it comes to pensions, because true, pensions affect everybody. First, the gentleman who is now going to, who is now even in school, let's say you're at the university. You know why? Because some time ago, I think now they say they have cancelled it. Without having a pensioner supporting you, you could not get a student's loan.
Yeah.
You get that point?
Yeah, contributor.
Yes, a contributor supporting you.
Yeah.
You could not get that kind of backing. So even before you start contributing yourself, you are affected. And again, if the system works perfectly, the tendency that you will come and actually be part of a better system is higher. So it is in the interest of people who are yet to contribute, students and other people who are yet to be part of the working force. The second group is the working force itself, currently contributing. And they don't do it for fun. They are doing it because it is sensible to have an insurance for your future. Like the way we have insurance for cars, that when you reach a certain point and have an accident, you can support yourself. That you, the human being, there are active years where you can go about and do all the things you want to do. You reach a point where you are no longer that active. You are frail. You are also susceptible and vulnerable to disease conditions that require management. So you are put aside money with the hope that at the time you can support yourself through life. The last group is when you finally become the pensioner yourself. That group, the expectation is that now you are receiving from what you have already contributed.
Yeah.
All these three groups are basically society, because we all at one stage in life are within the group we are talking about. I hope you get the point. So it is dangerous to treat SNIT like some other board that you sit on, you make your own decisions, then you come and use proverbs and other things to come and tell the people that you still pack on it, you insist on it, almost as if you do not know who you are representing. And the mistake we have made over the period, and I agree with Austin Gamey on it, is to presume that maybe because we have voted for Nana Akufo-Addo as president, we gave him so much power that everything we want him to do is what he's doing through the SNIT board. But sometimes, even military leaders sometimes seek further legitimacy by consistently engaging, checking whether the decisions they are making, they have the support and the backing of the people. So some of us were shocked. I'm not so sure why politicians could not read the room. That right from the beginning, people had concerns about how this was going. When they gave indications that they were going to hold on to it and all of that, the response was that, okay, well, no problem. We don't think this will ever see the light of day. But when it was made to look like we brought in a certain Osaf Mafu to fast track it, hook or crook, it has to be done. And it has to be done before the end of the year. What is happening at the end of the year? An election. So what is so urgent about this particular transitioning process that if you claim you start from 2018, I mean, having to hold on, and I've always said, the best test for the prudence of this deal would have been, let's say, a new government, whichever party is heading it, reviewing it and saying that, okay, yeah, this is a very wonderful deal. Let's proceed with it. The appearances, and people were not even showing their minds on what the appearances mean. It should look bad. This thing that we are talking about here, the same people who have been quoting best practices from the US and the UK, whether or not they can even suggest it in conversations with their partners or their colleagues, ministers elsewhere, that a minister's company is participating actively. Even the mere appearance of it had people worried. In any case, and I kept saying it here, Rock City is a company. Which company is so worried about people bastardizing its reputation that you are still interested? What at all are you getting out of companies that are not doing well? At least that's what we are told. What at all are you getting out of companies that are not doing so well that you are still bent on engaging it with all the brouhaha surrounding it? Your reputation, your interest. Every single story around this is bad news. Then I don't know if he's board chairman or his shareholder. Yes, minister himself for a sector agriculture. Every day he's sitting, moving from one radio station or defending his private company's interest. Not doing that particular work that we have given him, which is suffering. That sector is heavily suffering with prices and all of that. So you are not sure why we are still embroiled in this conversation when we are not discussing whether or not the pensioner deserves double or triple the amount of money you are giving them today. Ask how many of the people who are receiving pensions today, except for the top tier. We are told that some people are receiving big ones, those with big. Check most of the pensioners, whether or not the amount of money they get as support really supports them anywhere.
Yeah.
We are not even having those conversations. And yet, you could have everybody agreeing that this should happen at the rate. So perhaps one would understand that people did not read the room properly. People did not appreciate the concerns that people had raised all along the line. And again, one point that also should be said, wasted, is about the labor groups. We all know that it is true that until Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa sent his petition to Sraj. In fact, we have even mentioned here that we understand that this is going.
Yeah.
But they have not acted. They have not shown any interest in openly opposing or actually coming out to say that this is what we want to do. The last time, they told us that they had requested a meeting with the president for 2 years. And they were sitting and waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah, she requested a meeting with the executive president of the Republic of Ghana, not in a different country, not the UN Secretary General. Yeah, nah. 2 good years. Every single year between the 2 years, you meet the man at May Day.
Yes.
And yet you come and tell us this cock and bull story that, oh yes, we requested a meeting for 2 years, and finally we have been given a day to go and meet him. After the massive brouhaha came out, many had believed, ordinary workers, that labor disappointed them, especially the leadership.
Yeah.
In fact, I heard some say that even they'll be taken on for that poor representation that they gave out or they did not give to the Ghanaian workers. See, elsewhere, there are political parties that are formed with the title Labour.
Yes.
Why? Because Labour is perhaps the most important part in the country. They are the working force. And sometimes we distinguish it. Take out, including CEOs, straight down to the last person in the company. They are all working. Without the workforce, unless we create robots to take over, and who'll be managing these robots, we still need human beings to work at all levels. So involving them in the affairs of the state was always important. And I think Labour has gone to sleep. Sometimes petty partisan differences have made it almost impossible for them to do what is right. They have failed to put the collective interest of the masses of the country at heart. And people are saying, yeah, by Labour, you could call for many reforms, and you're still not doing so. So this cool health should prevail. And I'm suspecting that in the course of the week or so, they will call off the strike. Because the more we do this, if they follow the plan, by Friday or early Monday next week, do you know what's going to happen? Even emergency cases will not be held in hospitals. Yeah. That's how serious it's going to get. But for what purpose? What will be the reason why one person's interest should lead to the shutdown of entire medical service in the Republic of Ghana? Now, the medical services are working full-time. What are we getting? I mean, see, that is the reality. And people will be disproportionately affected, the poor in the country. So let's not get it wrong. This is going to bite. So the earlier government comes to the table, plead with the people that perhaps we're not listening to you at first. Labour says when they met the president, he was rather convincing them that there was nothing wrong with the deal and all of that. I mean, all of this is now over because they say they have terminated it. If you demand reforms, I think it will be possible for them to sit with the government, with the same minister who went to announce in Parliament. He too.
Exactly, you're right. He too he has questions to answer.
Yes, but is it the best of deals? We know how sticky this issue is and how sensitive it is. Look. Then you go and choose platform in Parliament. Oh, yes. They have been clear. They are going ahead with it. Did he discuss with Labour at that point? When you told them that he had actually ordered that they should put it on hold, did he go back to them to tell them that I've told them to continue with it? So sometimes I'm not clear. I think they took for granted. And we have been taking for granted in this country too much for too long. And it's painful, but people are suppressing the pain with the aim that things will change along the line. But it appears not to be showing those signs of change, so signs of, democracy, that my representative will do what I want. Then I can change him if he is unable to do what I want. But it has to take extreme measures, like strike. Extreme measures, like we will not go to work. We are insisting that you should remove the board. Ideally, people will not be interested in what the management is also doing because they act under the direction of the board. But they're not even demanding that the management should equally be removed for the conduct that everybody complained about. Perhaps in the future, when they hear similar complaints, they'll act right. It's a wake-up call to all of us.
Yes, and it being a wake-up call to all of us. I think that at this point in time, Labour knows what they can do. And I think that, to be very honest with you, I think that the board of SNIT should be dissolved. And so, yes, UTAG has already called for that. Labour should insist, and should also insist on the top management also being asked to step aside. At least, people must begin to recognize that when you're put in a position of authority, you're there to serve the interest of the people and not to serve any other person's interest. Look, even the Minister of Employment and Labour Relations, could he have stopped it, put it on hold? It did not. The National Pensions Regulatory Authority, what did they see? What did they tell them that they felt convinced and asked SNIT to continue? It's their CEO.
We should see the content of that report.
We have to see that report. And they have also shown that they've not done the right thing. Look, I think that...
Anyway, SNIT has still not responded to our RTR question.
Well, look, at this point in time, Labour has sent a signal. And it must not only end in the sale of 60% shares of SNIT hotels. Labour must become interested in the affairs of the state.
Yeah, because domestic debt can happen.
Yes.
If you're not interested. Your pensions may be used.
Yes.
And you go and be fighting all over the place. You issue press statements and all of that. But still, it will affect people, the livelihoods of the people who do not care about the politics, who may not be part of the voting public, who may not even care, because some people, when they wake up, it's only their business they care about.